Good evening from Colombo, and welcome to everyone who is joining us today. Welcome to our dialogue on youth in ocean and climate action. This will be a closed session, and therefore it will not be live streamed on Facebook as we usually do, but it will be a recorded one. Um, and so would like to thank you all for joining us today and giving us your time. My name is Sanasha Ekanaka. I work as a program and communications manager here at Slack and Trust, and I will be your moderator for the session. The world's ocean and coastal areas are home to rich biodiversity and key ecosystems that are vital for human lives, well-being, and livelihood. At the same time, billions of people worldwide, especially the world's poorest, rely on healthy oceans as a source of jobs and food. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, around 60 million people are employed worldwide in fishing and related industries, especially in developing countries like Sri Lanka. The commemoration of World Oceans Day 2021, that we said last week, was under the theme of the oceans, life and livelihoods. 2021 also launched the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration and the UN Decade of Ocean Science, the Science for Sustainable Development, that has been pivotal in advancing discussions on oceans, livelihoods related to marine ecosystems and restoration and conservation. In addressing the impacts of climate change and sustainable development needs, it is important to engage diverse stakeholders, especially in the context of raising awareness and developing innovative solutions. Youth are a key stakeholder group and also an important constituency under the processes of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, as well as in the work that we do here at Like and Trust. Our Global Youth Forum on Climate Change has been an example of one of the longest standing programs that we do with youth. And also capacity building for youth is one of our key areas of focus in most of our ongoing projects. My colleagues Ruani and Ashan will speak more on this during their presentations as well. So with that being said, and before we move on to the next segment of the session, I would like to run through some of the basic housekeeping rules for today. So we have a registration form that I have already linked on the chat. It would be great if you could fill this out. This is slightly different to the registration form that you all may have already filled out. Please do keep yourselves unmuted at all times. If your connection is good enough, we would encourage you to turn on your video if you're comfortable to do so that we could make this as interactive as possible. On those lines, as we want to keep this session engaging and as it is a dialogue, we do have an open discussion planned for a little later during this session. And we would encourage you to also carry forward the discussion on the chat as well. And if you are able to, and if you're on your laptop, please do try to rename yourselves to maybe indicate your name and the country that you're joining us from as well. So with that being said, before we get started and move into our presentations, as most of you all know, we love our Mentimeters. So we will be doing a 5-question quiz just to get started and just to see how much, just to see how much you all know in this session. So I'm just going to drop a link on the chat. And I'm also going to share my screen. So if you could log on to screen. Right. Yeah, so I hope you could see my screen, and we already have someone who's entered the name. So if you could log on to www.menti.com and use the code 20166026, and then you should have a little place that lets you type out your name, like a little box. So you could use your name or any name that you choose to use today. And maybe we'll leave it on for about 30 seconds more, and then we could get started. So once again, log on to www.menti.com and use the code 20166026. The code has also been dropped in the chat, so you could copy and paste it. And welcome to all of the new participants who have joined us since I started talking. All right, so we have a few people who have signed up for the quiz. So just to let you all know, if you all haven't, if this is If you answer fast, you also get more points at the end. So yes. All right. So we have a few who have already signed up. So let's get started. So first question, what is the percentage? Sorry, we have three options. Oceans hold blank percentage of Earth's water. So you're 96.5%, 75%, and 90%. Okay, let's see how we fared. 75%. 5 people got that answer right. Okay, so what to the next slide to see how everyone fared. So Ricky, Homer, and Elsa are leading. Pingu and DMM. All right. Okay, fine. Let's move on to the next question. Which sustainable development goal is mainly focused on oceans and ocean life? So we have three answers again, SDG 13, SDG 14, or SDG 15. Okay, so okay, let's see how everyone said. Right, so okay, so this will calculate our overall results. So Elsa is leading, followed by Pinky and Hashimi, right? So two more to go. Sorry, three more to go. What was the theme of Oceans Day in 2020? Innovations for sustainable ocean, gender and the oceans, clean our ocean. Innovations. Okay, a lot of people got that answer right. And let's see how this fares. Elsa is currently leading with Pinky and Hashimi. Okay, right. So we have two more to go. I think we could turn this around. What is the ultimate reason for coral bleaching? So there are three answers that are given: ocean waves or tides, pollution, temperature increase in waters or oceans. Okay, looks like a lot of people got the answer correct. And for anyone wondering if they want to join, there's one more question. You could still join in. It's still a lot of fun. So you can log on to menti.com and use the code 01026. So, all right. So how does this work? Right. So Elsa is still leading, followed by Pinky and Ricky. Damit and DMM are also very close. Okay. So I believe this is our last question. In which year was the first UN Ocean Conference held? Sorry, this should be year, my bad. So it's 2016, 2017, or 2018. So 2017, and a lot of you have gotten that answer correct as well. Well done. Okay, that makes Elsa the winner. Well done, Elsa. Congratulations. There's no prize at the end, unfortunately, but thank you very much to all those who took part. It was very nice to have that little icebreaker, at least virtually. So now we move on to the more serious part of this discussion. We move on to our first presentation on youth engagement in coastal and marine ecosystems by Mr. Ashan Karunananda. He's a research and program officer here at Like and Trust. Ashan, over to you.
Thank you, Sini. One second, I'll share my slides. Can you see my slides, Sini?
Yes, Ashan.
So, good evening to one second, I'll on my switch on. So, good evening to everybody joining us from Sri Lanka and across the globe. So, in relation to the Oceans Days, Like and Trust has organized this event to see how youth could engage in these coastal and marine ecosystems. So, during my presentation, I'll be mainly focusing on youth engagement in marine and coastal ecosystems. And my name is Ashan Karuananda, currently working as a research and program officer at Like and Trust. So during my presentation, I'll be giving a brief introduction to the marine and coastal ecosystems in the Asia Pacific region and drawing some examples in the context of Sri Lanka. And also will be focusing on some of the work that done by Psych and Trust related to this field, and also would end it with how youth globally could actively involve in protecting these ecosystems. So keeping in that mind, we'll move on to the first slide. So the Asia Pacific region is considered as a very highly diverse region, especially if you take 17 of the 36 the biodiversity hotspots found in Asia are found in the Asia Pacific region. So why I selected this is the highest marine diversity is in this region. So if you take more than half of the global mangrove ecosystems are found in the area, and the highest seagrass density is found in the region. And also, however, this region has experienced a rapid economic and a population growth. So if you take currently 4.5 billion, that is 60% of the world populations are found in this area. Adding to that, 52% of the world's poor population is recorded in the region, and 75% of the indigenous communities are represented in this area. As a result of this economic growth and population growth, there has been a huge threat into these marine and coastal ecosystems, causing a huge threat, especially to the people who their livelihoods directly depend on these ecosystems, as well as the species which depend on them. So, so taking Sri Lanka as an example, so Sri Lanka has a coastline of 1,340 kilometers. So in Sri Lanka, there are various climatic zones. As a result, the diversity of these ecosystems are very diverse. So 21 species of mangroves are found in Sri Lanka, and also 288 species of corals, according to the National Red List, which was published in 2012, is supported in the country. So why are these ecosystems important? So important to our country as well as globally. So it provides feeding, breeding, and residing habitats for urban wildlife, such as birds and also other fish species, and also mammals which depend on these areas. Additionally, the mangrove ecosystems and coral reefs provides excellent nurseries for fish species, which definitely help in the boosting of the fishing industry and also in ecotourism practices. In addition, mangrove ecosystems are found as good carbon sequestration ecosystems, which absorb close to 3 to 4 times more carbon than other forest ecosystems. And also, in addition, these provide a good livelihood opportunities to the communities in the area. So many people across the globe depend their livelihoods in this marine and coastal ecosystem. So taking Sri Lanka into example, over 800,000 fishing households directly depend on the marine sector. In the 2019, over 500 megatons of fishing production has been produced in the country, which has been 80% from the marine sector and has raised a gross income of over 100,000 million. So provided an income for the fishing communities living in this area. In addition, if you take Sri Lanka, close to 2 million tourists has been visited the country in 2019, which is during the pre-COVID period, raising an income of close to 600,000 million. So these tourism opportunities in the form of nature trails, boat rides, coral watching, whale watching has helped in providing many job opportunities for the people depending in this sector. However, as a whole, there has been a huge threat to these ecosystems, especially due to unsustainable development and also overfishing, because more and more products are taken of the oceans, and also due to the increase in population, they are extracted more, and also the overuse of destructive fishing methods. So methods such as dynamite fishing, which is used a lot, which harms the coral reefs, and also the use of illegal fishing gear is also making a huge threat. And also, what is also making huge threat is climate change. So, with the increase in ocean acidification, the corals are under a huge threat, as well as with the increase in temperatures, and also there has been a rise in bleaching events causing a huge threat to these ecosystems. So what can we do? So here I have included a few slides on a research that we have conducted, supported by the Mitsubishi Corporation. So this we can take an example how we can engage youth in protection of these species, as well as how we can help them to develop their livelihood. So if you take, we selected two sites in Sri Lanka during in the western coastline. One in the Uttalam district, where the site location was kite surfing Lanka, where mangrove restoration project close to 3,000 mangrove plants were restored, and also Lunav Lagoon, where it is situated in the Gampha district. And here we have identified that it is a very important area because many fishing communities depended on this patch of mangroves for their livelihoods. So we have identified that an extra effort was done to this, and a biodiversity survey was conducted in this region to see how ecotourism could help in improving the livelihoods of these people in the area, as well as how the people could be educated in order to protect these ecosystems. So from the results of the biodiversity survey, we identified that close to nine mangrove species were recorded in both areas, and 7 mangrove species were also recorded in Lunava Lagoon, Dikkovita only, representing 33.3% of the mangrove species found in Sri Lanka. In addition, we also found that close to 47 bird species, 10 species of butterflies, over 5 species of dragonflies were recorded in this region, and hence this region was identified an ideal location to promote ecotourism. Therefore, when looking into the population in the area, we identified that the Dikkovita area, there is a population of 1,623 people, out of which 33% represent the age group of 20 to 39, and 50% were females. In the Kalpeti area, there were 4,548 individuals, out of which 33% of the people were in the age group of 20 to 39, and females close to 51%. So, and also looking into education background, 52% of Dikkovita and 45% of Kalpitia goes only up to the secondary education level. So there is lack of knowledge, but there's a high potential in promoting these ecotourism practices in these areas, but the people are unaware of doing this. So we have developed some plans on how the knowledge of these local peoples could be increased in this area. In return, where these ecosystems would be protected, as well as there would be an income for the people, and especially we have targeted that youth has a high potential in these areas in conducting these activities. So in this slide, I have included how youth could actively engage in protecting these coastal ocean and coastal ecosystems. So one way is youth forums. So as Senashia mentioned, and my colleague Ruani will be explaining on the Global Youth Forum that has been conducted by Slyken Trust for the past 4 to 5 years, where it had given an opportunity for the youth to engage with globally, as well as with experts, as well as participants, which gain knowledge and gives a good opportunity for the youth to share their ideas, because I think the youth has creative ideas, and these ideas could be used in protecting these ecosystems. and also engaging youth in project like to engage youth when conducting projects specifically in those project locations. For example, we have planned at Strike and Trust. So as I said, we conduct biodiversity assessments. We are in the process of developing methods on how the youth in the area could actively engage with us to identify the species present in the area. In a way, they get an idea on what are the species present in the area so that they will try to take measures to protect them. So the awareness of the general public is also an important thing. And also outreach and capacity building programs. Definitely, the youth in the area should be given necessary trainings on how. For example, I said some areas are good for promoting ecotourism, but how the knowledge of the youth can be increased. So at Strike and Trust, we have capacity building programs where we target the youth groups, especially at the location as well as virtually, which help in promoting this, improving their knowledge. And also the final thing is involving in research. So I would like to take an example, taking me into example how the youth could actively involve in research. So this is not related to the coastal ecosystem, but so like I mainly work on the biodiversity and wildlife area, but I got the opportunity after working with Strike and Trust to work in the field across many projects. So here I want to share a finding which I found when I was working at Anuradhapura district regarding to agriculture project. So if you take Sri Lanka has 25 districts, and these districts are in each district. These districts are subdivided into the divisional secretariat divisions. So in Anuradhapura district, there are 20 divisional secretariat divisions, which is further fragmented into two Gram Nidara divisions. So that is there are 32 Gram Nidara divisions. So when we are collecting data from the farmers, so in the Gantiragama Gram Nidara division, so if you could see this photograph shows a water tank found in the area. So as a glance, you cannot see that the people in the area are impacted from climate change. But if you take the people in the very closer to the tank has an opportunity to extract these resources. But just 800 meters into the village, when we question the farmers, they didn't have water. So in this small Ramanidara division, people are impacted from climate change. They mentioned that they don't have water for the conducting the agricultural practices. So what youth could do is these findings can be discussed internally and also nationally and globally, which will be helpful in educating the people in the area. So with that, I will come to my end of my presentation, and thank you for listening.
Thanks very much, Ashan, for the presentation. Just as we want to make this as interactive as possible, just to let everyone know that if you have any comments or additions or anything that you would like to share, kindly do drop it on the chat so we could make note of it and take it forward to our open discussion that will be held after this. So thank you, Ashan. So moving on to talking about the Global Youth Forum Climate Change that Ashan as well as I mentioned earlier. We have with us Ruani De Silva. She's the coordinator for the Global Youth Forum Climate Change, who will be up next. Ruani, just give me a minute until I share your screen.
Yeah, thank you, Sanasha. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our dialogue today. As mentioned before, I'm Ruani De Silva, and I'm currently handling the coordination activities related to Global Youth Forum. And now, okay, Sanasha has shared her screen, and just to start off with, I will give you a quick introduction to the Global Youth Forum. It was first organized in 2016 by Strike and Trust together with the Climate Change Secretariat of the Ministry of Environment as a part of Sri Lanka Next program. The main focus of this event is to encourage youth participation in sharing knowledge on key climate change issues and to provide a platform to youth to propose ideas on climate action, research, and also support youth to develop and improve project proposals through capacity building and networking. The last forum was held virtually in December 2020 with over 70 countries participating in it. And as you can see, the first screen that you see is all the speakers we had at our December event. And so during the December event, we had 4 main areas of focus, one of which looked at oceans and coastal ecosystems. So how our event worked is that the proposals were submitted by youth who attended the event, and 2 of which were selected for public voting. And during the event, the youth compiled and got together and completed a project proposal that addressed each of the thematic areas, which included marine life and coastal ecosystems as well. Now we are at a phase where where the project proposals are being further elaborated by having engagement from youth and all other stakeholders. The next step would be that we would put out these proposals to be edited by the public for public comments, and any youth organization or youth or any stakeholder that is interested in any of these thematic areas could, I'm sorry?
No, Rooney, you could go ahead. I think
Sorry.
someone accidentally unmuted. Yes.
Oh, no worries. So as I was saying, the next step would be we will be putting these proposals out for public comments, and anybody who's interested could partner up with us and give us the comments for these proposals. Just to look at what the outcomes of the Global Youth Forum would be is that we are looking at supporting the implementation of these activities through mentorships, partnerships, and collaborating or connecting individuals and organizations that have expressed interest in being a part of this proposals that we are conducting at the moment. So let me just to the next screen now, Seni. This is basically a graphical representation of the countries that took part in the last Global Youth Forum with us. So all these countries got together, all the youth from all these countries came together to come up with these proposals. So what we have with us and what the Global Youth Forum puts forward is very valuable for youth at any level to come engage and present their ideas, exchange their ideas, and also build a strong networking system. So I'd like to finally just take this opportunity to invite everybody in this call who's interested in connecting with youth, even as a mentor or as an organization who's just willing to contribute. Please do get in touch with us. So we will be having this youth forum again this year as well, and we aim to bring together more youth than the last one. So this is an open invitation to anybody who's interested to come to write to us so that we could engage you in this in our Global Youth Forum as well. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sanasha.
Thanks very much, Rooney, for the presentation, and I hope that gave all of you all who are joining us some insight on the forum, and we would love to see you all, and we would love to have you all on board with us this year. So with that, we are moving on to just one more presentation. But before that, I would kindly like to remind all of you all who are yet to fill out our registration form, kindly do so. The link is on the chat. If you have any trouble filling out the form, please do send me a message and I'll be happy to help you out. So moving on to our next presentation on youth in the national determined contributions and national adaptation plans, we have with us our Director of Research and Knowledge Management, Dennis Momba, who will be addressing everyone here. Dennis?
Yes, thank you very much, Sandy. And hello, everybody. I am Dennis Mombauer, Director of Research and Education at Slack and Trust. Let me quickly share my screen. Okay, I hope you can all see this. So I will talk about youth and nationally determined contributions, NDCs, and national adaptation plans, NAPs, and also about the youth strategies that we're going to develop, and of which this dialogue is the first part. So very quickly as a background, I think we are aware of the importance of youth to climate change and also the vulnerability of youth when it comes to climate change. Between the ages of 15 and 24, we have currently 1.21 billion people, or roughly 15.5% of the world's total population. And the vast majority of these live in developing countries, approximately 87%. And youth are key stakeholders when it comes to climate change. They are obviously affected by the impacts of climate change and will be affected more once these impacts increase and become more intense and frequent. But they are also the ones who will be the key actors and decision makers in the future, and then will have to deal with and have the power to deal with climate change at that stage. However, for youth to engage now, there are a number of obstacles to engage in climate action. These are some of the main areas: lack of awareness. So they might not be, youth might not be aware of institutions and processes that they can engage in, or how to engage in those, and also they might not have access to climate information, and also knowledge might not be available in a local language or local context. Lack of capacities, that relates a lot to lack of capacity building opportunities and lack of training opportunities for youth when it comes to climate change. Lack of access, they might not have direct access to government planning processes, to decision-making processes, or to the international processes such as those under the UNFCCC. Lack of resources, youth and youth-led organizations, they might have very limited funding or no funding, and they might especially have no reliable long-term funding. So to have people working on a project for an extended period of time might be very difficult due to lack of resources. Lack of inclusion, youth might not be acknowledged or mentioned or addressed in policies and plans and strategies. They might not be included in NDCs or NAPs. I come to that in a bit, and also not in other climate-related policies and plans and development plans in other relevant sectoral policies and plans. And then, of course, one big obstacle is also climate change itself. Many youth, and as I said, 87% live in developing countries, many of them in rural areas, many of them from poor communities or vulnerable communities. They are directly affected by climate change already, and this has potentially serious impacts on their education, their development, their health, and their livelihoods. So that they might not have the opportunity to engage in climate action. So how does it does this look under the UNFCCC and under other UN processes? So youth have been pretty much part of this from the beginning in the 1992 Rio Summit and the Rio Declaration and Rio +20 outcome document. Intergenerational equity and solidarity and the needs of future generations is one of the pillars of for process on sustainable development, and that includes climate change adaptation. And that's also the year when the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, was established. So yeah, youth have been from this point on already been a part of these climate change processes. In 2002, the New Delhi Work Programme was adopted on Article 6. I come to that in a bit. 2007, it was extended for another 5 years. In 2012, we had the Doha Work Programme, which is still ongoing. It will be reviewed this year. It was supposed to be reviewed last year, but due to COVID, the climate change conference didn't take place. And then in 2015, as we all know, the Paris Agreement came into being. And also this is here the PCCB, the Paris Committee on Capacity Building, and the TEPA, the Technical Examination Process and Adaptation, were established, both of which are relevant to youth. And 2016, intermediate review of the Doha Work Programme, 2018, adoption of the ACE decision, that's Action for Climate Empowerment. I come to that in the next slide, but that basically promotes, I come to it in the next slide. 2019 saw the review of the PCCB and extension of its mandate, and 2020, the last TEPA, the Technical Examination Process and Adaptation, that focused on youth in climate action, youth education, training, and also public participation. And that is in the lead up to the next COP and to the implementation of the Paris Agreement. All right, so what is Article 6? What is Article 12? In the UNFCCC, the convention, Article 6 has six key elements: education, training, public awareness, public participation, public access to information, and international cooperation. And Article 12 of the Paris Agreement, that came to being into 2015, commits to enhance climate change, training, public awareness, public participation, and again, access to information. So both of these are about public engagement, multi-stakeholder engagement, and they both include youth. So so then we have Action for Climate Empowerment, which was established to denote work under Article 6 of the UNFCCC and Article 12 of the Paris Agreement to empower society, including youth, to engage in climate action. So these various pillars, so the 6 main areas that are there under ACE and Article 6 and Article 12. And there's also the opportunity for direct youth participation under the UN. The larger UN processes, there's a major group for children and youth. That's a constituency for those under 30. Under the UNFCCC process, we have YANGO, the official constituency of youth NGOs. I think we have some YANGO members in the room today also. And then there are some other programs and initiatives, for example, the UN Youth Delegate Program, the UN Joint Framework Initiative on Children, Youth and Climate Change, the UN Youth Envoys, and also the Conference of Youth that's usually organized by YANGO in collaboration with local youth organizations. Together with the major COPs, meetings of the conference of the parties of the to the UNFCCC. The next of which will happen this year in Glasgow. And below there, we have 2 knowledge products that came up last year as part of this TEPA. One is on youth engagement in climate change adaptation. One is on integration of climate change adaptation into national education processes. If you're interested in the topic, they're both available online, and I can recommend having a look at those. They outline some of the key gaps and needs and some of the key areas for youth engagement and climate change adaptation in education processes. That's also where I took these lags and obstacles that I mentioned earlier from. We also did this year a research commissioned by the British Council in Sri Lanka, a nationwide survey on youth engagement and perceptions on climate change. This is not published yet, but it also has interesting results on what the obstacles are for youth to engage in climate change adaptation and in climate action in general. So then the nationally determined contributions and the national adaptation plans. I don't know how familiar you all are with the NDCs. That's basically at the heart of the Paris Agreement. These are the commitments that countries make. Every country has its own nationally determined contributions to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions, and in many cases also to adapt to climate change impacts. And so they're submitted to the UNFCCC Secretariat every 5 years, basically. And the current cycle is 2020, 2021 due to COVID. Some of them are a bit delayed. Where countries basically resubmit their updated or revised commitments. And under ACE, under the ACE program, there are guidelines to integrate these 6 elements that I mentioned earlier into the NDC revision and update process, and to strengthen youth capacities, to address these obstacles that are there, and to have youth included in NDCs. So that when a country commits on how it wants to address climate change and contribute to global efforts, youth are a key part of that conversation. There are commitments that relate to youth, and youth become also stakeholders in the developing process and the discussions of that. And there's also the possibility to develop a national ACE strategy to better integrate that. So there are some guidelines on that, but of course there's much opportunity in many NDCs. Youth is not particularly well addressed. So there's a lot of scope in the update process, and then also of course in the implementation process of the NDCs to really integrate youth as a key vulnerable group and as key stakeholders and actors when it comes to climate action. And the same goes for national adaptation plans, which some countries already have formulated, for example, Sri Lanka. Other countries are in the process of doing that. There are technical guidelines developed by the LEC, that's the Least Developed Countries Expert Group. And those refer also to the need to integrate youth education and training into national adaptation plans. But there's otherwise no specific guideline to integrate youth. So that's a gap also. I think there are many areas in NAPs where youth can be integrated based on our research that we have done and our consultations. For example, including awareness creation, training and education, skills development, livelihoods and employment, how those can be opened up for youth and made more climate resilient. capacity building opportunities for youth, support for youth engagement, also financial and technical support, and then how to really integrate youth action into the national processes and then sub-national and local level processes as well. So to better address this, we are currently working on a strategy for youth engagement. For strategy for youth engagement in climate policy. That means the NDC process and the NEP process, but also other national climate policies and processes. For example, many countries have a national climate change policy. Sri Lanka has one that's being updated also. And we're looking for this both on to the national level to develop a strategy for Sri Lanka. In discussions and consultations we had with the government, it was suggested to have a draft developed and then presented. So then it could be validated and approved by the government, hopefully become a national strategy. But we're also looking at the global level and have a strategy for large engagement that can be used on an international level to better integrate youth into these climate processes and commitments. And basically we have 4 main steps to develop this. One is the planning step that's already done. That's like preparatory research, evaluation of existing literature, and outlining of priority areas for both policy interventions and action interventions. And then the dialogue series, which is starting today with this virtual dialogue. And it's about collecting case studies, experiences, input from youth and other relevant stakeholders, and really to share also different ways in which youth have engaged or are engaging in climate action. And we will focus on different sectors for this also. Today we're focusing mainly on oceans and coastal sector as well. And once this dialogue series is completed, or at least the first series is completed, we will go into the consolidation process. We'll have some additional consultations. For this, we'll look to engage with country partners and organizational partners to have country level or sectoral level consultations, and to develop an online platform where people can provide further input. And then we will consolidate all of this and synthesize it into a draft strategy that will then be circulated among key experts and hopefully then presented to, in the national case, to the government, or on the global scale to other key stakeholders, and then validated, refined, and finalized. And then hopefully it will be able to provide guidance to much better integrate youth engagement into NDCs, into NEPs, and into other policies and processes. So far, just as a brief overview of this, again, there will be more dialogues like this one in the near future. We'll keep you updated on that if you're interested. And we are very happy for all of you to really engage with this, really give your input and experiences on this, what has worked, what hasn't worked, what are success stories that you can share, also what are stories of failure where something has not panned out, what were the challenges, the obstacles, and how can youth really be part of this. All right, thank you very much. If you have any additional questions or suggestions beyond this session, just write me an email or drop us a message on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any way you want. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dennis, and thank you to everyone who has been, thanks very much, and thank you to those who have been messaging separately, requesting to be connected with us for some of the engagement as well. So thanks very much. So before we go on to our next session, which is basically an open discussion. So like we said earlier, we want to try and make this a dialogue as engaging as possible. So this second session, and I'm happy to report that we are in time, which is great. So the second session will be focusing mostly on youth engagement in ocean and climate action. However, before we go on to that, we have another little Mentimeter that we have prepared, which I'll just drop in the chat right now. So if you could log on to menti.com and use the code 664661113, it should, this is just to maybe recap on how much you guys have been paying attention to our presentation, as well as, if you had any key takeaways as well. If you could, so you should be able to log on to menti.com and use the code 664661113. And if you could drop any takeaways from the three presenters, Ashan, Ruani, and Dennis, who kindly made the presentation, then we could probably go through a few of them. Just want to know if anyone has any trouble accessing the Mentimeter. Right. Okay, we have one key takeaway so far. Opportunities for youth to engage with climate action. Okay. Did I started work on SDGs and want to realize for the people, youth need to be key actors in climate action, valuable hacks on coastal ecosystems, importance of mangrove ecosystems, global youth forum, youth in climate action. So far we had only 6 respondents. Many people depend on their livelihoods. Okay, many people depend on oceans and marine ecosystems for their livelihoods. Any other key takeaways from the 3 presenters that with your youth can contribute to climate action, capacity building can help them to engage better? Yes, thanks very much. Youth action in ocean conservation is important. There are different levels in policy and decision making where youth need to be included. Youth in research, youth can play a major role in combating climate change, the importance of youth participation in climate action. Great, thanks very much. We do, like I said, following this Menti, we do have a session where we'll hopefully open this up a bit more and you could directly engage with us. So just one more question where we would like you to maybe answer on how you think youth can best engage in ocean and climate action. So if you're wondering how to submit your responses, you could go on to www.menti.com and use the code 66466113. By learning more on climate impacts. Yes, it's great. So these could be any sort of activities or events that you have done at your own capacity or organizational capacity, or any ideas that you would have that you think would be suited for youth or for young people, developing our own projects and take climate and ocean related actions, ecosystem restoration practices, the mangroves, knowledge and experiences, citizen scientists. We could help spread awareness on climate and ocean action, first learning and understanding actions, and then creating awareness, engaging with environmental organizations. Great. Choosing jobs related to climate change and contributing to find solutions. These are great. Thank you very much to everyone who submitted your queries. And with that, for the next, how much time do we have? For the next 25 to maybe 30, 30 minutes or so, we will be having an open discussion. So for this, I would kindly like to encourage you, if you are comfortable enough to maybe turn your videos. If you're not, that's fine. But maybe you could leave yourselves unmuted because, like I said, we want to keep this dialogue as open as possible. So there are a few things that we want to discuss today. And this is basically where we're looking for people to contribute on, as well as to kind of get to know what each other's doing, so that first of all, we could try and see how best we could collaborate to make sure that the work can be scaled sustainably and more effectively. And second of all, so we don't duplicate the work that's already been done. So from the 50 participants that we have in the session today. Is there anyone who would like to maybe share any work that you do as on your own individual capacity or any youth or as part of a youth organization? You could directly unmute yourselves or you could raise your hand. Either is okay. So these will be the points of discussion that we hope to kind of cover during these next few minutes. So if anyone would like to contribute, you could raise your hand on any work that you have been doing or have been, or plan to do. Yes, Priyan.
Yeah, hi. Am I
Hi.
audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you. So I am actually from the Rotary Club of Achievers Lanka Business School. And yes, we basically, we also conduct projects with regards to this climate change. And so we have conducted beach cleanups like during the past 2 years. And actually, so the road track movement once 1 year, like 2 years before, the road track movement had a like rule saying that all the road track clubs in Sri Lanka had to do at least a minimum of one beach cleanup per year. So, and apart from that, even last year, like even during the COVID-19 period, we were able to do one beach cleanup, but we were planning to do more. But then again, because of the situation, we were unable to go ahead with it. So apart from that, we also do like tree planting programs, and we have engaged in the butterfly gardening concept as well.
Great, thanks very much. There are some follow-up questions that as well, but I think first, maybe let's try to see if anyone else would like to share some of the work that they do, and we could probably come back to a few other questions. So thanks very much for sharing.
You're
that. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to share as work that they do as part of any youth organization that you are in or at your own personal capacity? Either is okay. In case, sorry, just wanted to also mention that since we do have quite a few participants from Sri Lanka, in case you also want to maybe speak or like type in Sinhala or Tamil, please note that we, like our team at Like and Trust have those who speak all languages. So we are able to also carry out the conversation in Sinhala and Tamil if needed. So with that said, just want to check one more time and we'll leave this open for about another 30 seconds. Any work that you, this could even be any sort of work that you did in the past in relation to ocean and climate actions, or anything that you have planned for post-COVID, whenever that is, that you intend to do in the capacity of youth or as part of youth organization that you're in. Anything that anyone would like to share with us, because it would really help kind of build the discussion forward for the rest of this dialogue, as well as the future dialogues that we hope to have as well.
Hi, Seni Wasita here.
Yes, hi, Wasita.
Yeah, I think if participants are not those who are working in youth specific organizations, but even if the organization focuses on youth, I think they can share input as well, because Like and Trust works on youth, but we don't call us as a youth organization. So there could be organizations working on youth. Anyone who has that can share as well, I think.
Great. Thanks, Wasita. And yes, if there's anyone so we also have some participants who are from outside of Sri Lanka. So if there is any thing that you would like to share, that would also be helpful. Okay, so maybe until others are less shy to speak. Yes, sorry, Fatima, I'm wondering, hi, and thanks for joining. I'm wondering if you are in a position to unmute yourself and maybe speak a bit.
Hi.
Hi, Fatima. Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Great.
Okay. Actually, like we train young divers, and also like we do a lot of reef cleaning, and even very recently, like time to time, we have campaigns in different parts of the country in order to like collect debris from the shore as well under the sea as well. So there is one kind of an engagement we do from our part from the organization.
Great. Thanks so much, Fatima, and thanks for sharing that. So with that, I mean, the others are, you all are able to maybe type this in the chat if you wish to, or you could sit down with yourselves. But I'm just going to bring this back to Priyan a bit. So Priyan and Fatima, yeah, we will maybe carry this discussion forward with some of the insight that you have given us as well. So maybe, so Priyan, you did say that with the beach cleanups, that was part of the mandate that was given to all road track labs. But in, I mean, let's say pre-COVID, and you know, when you all were doing that, did you all have any sort of challenges when you wanted to scale this work, or when you wanted to kind of expand on the work or the capacity of work that you were doing?
Yeah, so basically one of the biggest challenges that we faced was workforce with us. So like normally when we go for a beach cleanup project, maybe around 20 volunteers come with us. If it's like a joint project done by like a few clubs, maybe around 40 would come. But then like one thing that we always realize is when we go there, like to see the amount of area that is polluted, you know, I mean, we would need at least need, I don't know, 100 or more to get the area clean. So what we do is we do as much as possible and maybe try and raise awareness with regards to the remaining areas so that someone else would be able to do something there. Plus, also the other thing that we were a little bit concerned is like where these the collected garbage or the debris is disposed. So sometimes we found it difficult to find like the responsible people who would dispose them properly. Uh, yeah, like those two are basically the main issues that we normally face.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think also since road track is also like a volunteer driven initiative, it's probably more difficult to find people. Yeah. So so just want to know, like in from your experience in having been a part of the road track as well, how do you think you can maybe be encouraged to be more, you know, active participants in work related oceans? Is it because is it the lack of knowledge or interest, or what do you think is like the barrier over here?
Well, one thing is like, so one thing I see, like there are many road track clubs in Sri Lanka, and I think so like lot of clubs in based in Colombo. So one thing is like the most volunteers are scattered into different clubs. Then I think again another issue is the one of the major issues is that you know the lack of, you know, proper education on what is actually causing these things. Like I feel like if more awareness is raised on these topics, we could actually get more people to get involved.
Yeah, definitely. And so post COVID, that time period would be how do you think the pandemic has also maybe changed? I mean, apart from the fact that you can't gather in groups, but how has this kind of changed your approach to the work that you do? maybe particularly in relation to ocean and climate actions, or in general the work you do as a youth
Yeah.
group?
So basically, like, so since I was last year, I was the director in charge of community services, and myself and my co-director, we know plan to do around a few beach cleanups. Like we have 4 quarters for the road track year, and we thought of doing at least one beach cleanup per quarter, which means 4 per year. But since like the main road track body instructed us not to conduct physical activities for most of the year, we were actually able to conduct only one at the Dehiwala beach. So like uh, yeah, like the main drawback that was resulted as a from COVID is basically the inability to conduct physical projects.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Priyan, for shedding some light on that. I think I mean, it's always good to hear, I mean, we do things virtually as much as possible, but then there's a certain amount of things that you can't do virtually. And
Yeah.
someone has raised their hand. Damika. Yes, thanks, Priyan. And we'll get
You're
back to you
welcome.
in this discussion, but thank you very much
Sure.
for contributing. Yes, Damika.
Yeah. Thank you, Sinasha. Question to Shian again. Like, have you thought of any, while this COVID situation is there, what sort of other things that even with regard to beach cleanups, what sort of preparatory actions or sort of things that we could do? Because I have seen in some situations when we do the beach cleanups, we find it difficult to, where to put the items that we collected. Some of them are recyclable, some of them are not. So I mean, any ideas from your end, like things that we could do at this point to whenever we are able to go out and do the thing, like some issues that we face during that time could be solved?
Uh, like I couldn't like catch up with you in certain areas. Could you repeat it if you don't mind?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when we are conducting beach cleanups, we sometimes face several other issues, right? One thing
Yeah.
that I faced was like when we clean stuff from the beach, we don't sometimes find a way to dispose the ones that we've collected, because
Yes.
some items are recyclable, sometimes some are not.
Not.
No,
Yeah.
so that sort of issues that we found, like while during this COVID period, if you are not able to go physically there, I
Yeah.
mean, are there any other ways, connecting with several like other actors and trying to find solutions for those during this period? So when we are able to go out, some of these issues that we face could be sort of,
All right. So basically,
reduced. So,
what you're saying is how can we properly dispose the garbage that we collect, right? I mean, separate
yeah,
them and
one is that any that was just an example. I mean, during this period, without going there, what are the preparatory things that we could uh,
uh okay.
so that's one other thing, so two
Right.
questions
So
basically.
yeah. So well, with regards to the disposing problem that you brought up was actually so. What we normally try to do is we contact the municipal council before we go to the beach cleanup and tell them that will be done at this time and will be so basically when we collect the garbage we normally instruct our team to collect it separately. So and when the municipal council arrives we give them the separated garbage. And actually uh, when I was like before I was a part of the Rotary Club of Achievers Lanka Business School, I was at the Rotary Club of SLIIT, and there we did a beach cleanup at Arugambe. And there was a foreigner who was having a like a recycling center over there, and he was like selling items made of the garbage which was recycled from the garbage that was collected. So he had recycled them, and he had like a few machines, and he had recycled some of the bottle caps and everything, and he was making items and he was promoting that. So I feel like we can promote such entities a little bit more, so people will know how to like the people will know where exactly to direct the garbage or whatever. And maybe we can encourage other people to conduct such processes like recycling centers. And those, I mean, he had like a small place, not a massive place. So you can always start small, I think. So maybe promoting that would be a good thing if we can do this these days, because these days I see a lot of posters and online things happening. So
yeah, great. Thanks so much, Priyan, and thanks, Damita, for that question. That was helpful. I would maybe we would want to discuss these 3 questions as well, but I would like to maybe also ask my colleagues Nipun and Tatsha, if you all could maybe also say in both Sinhala and Tamil, in case someone wants to contribute to this discussion on any work that they have been doing as youth or in the capacity of youth organizations, anything that they would like to share, or any sort of work that they have planned for the future or work that they did in the past. If maybe you could also say the same in Sinhala and Tamil, that might perhaps encourage others to also take part and maybe contribute a bit more. We do have some time, so if you could maybe consider that, we could then move on to the other questions as well.
Thank you, Senasi. මං හිතන්නේ අපි දැන් මෙතන ගොඩක් තරුණ සංවිධාන මං හිතන්නේ නියෝජනය කරමින් මෙතන සහභාගී වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මං ආරාධනා කරනවා මේ තියෙන ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ තරුණ සංවිධාන කොහොමද මේ සාගරය නැත්නම් මේ සාගරය ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ තරුණ සංවිධාන ලින්ක් කරන්නේ මොකද්ද? මං හිතන්නේ ගොඩක් අය එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් උත් ඇති කොහොමද ඔයගොල්ලෝ බීතෙන් අර කලින් ජෙරමි කිව්වා වගේ බීච් ක්ලීන් අප් වගේ ඇක්ටිවිටීස් වලට ඔයගොල්ලෝ සහභාගී වෙලා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් එහෙම ඇති ඒ වගේ එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් තියෙනවා නම් ඒව ෂෙයා කරගන්න අපිත් එක්ක කියලා මම ආරාධනා කරනවා. මෙතන ඉන්න තරුණ සංවිධාන ඒ වගේම ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ සමහර වෙලාවට කැම්පස් නියෝජනය කරමින් පිරිස සහභාගී වෙලා ඉන්න. ඉතින් මම ඔයගොල්ලන් සියලු දෙනාටම ආරාධනා කරනවා ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ තියෙන අදහස් මොන හරි තියෙනවා එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් ඒවා අපිත් එක්ක ෂෙයා කරගන්න කියලා.
Thank you, Nipun. Tatsha, maybe just very briefly, if you could just ask or encourage others if they would like to share any work that they have done or they plan to do as youth or as part of a youth organization they're in.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. ஹாய் அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். ஸோ இதென்ன இந்த சமுத்திரம் சார் மற்றும் கால்நடை நடவடிக்கைகள் சார்பில் வந்து நீங்கள் ஒரு இளைஞராக அல்லது ஒரு இளைஞர் அமைப்பு அல்லது அது தொடர்பிலான அமைப்பில் நீங்கள் ஏதாவது செயற்பாடுகளை செய்திருந்தால் உங்களுடைய அனுபவங்களை நிச்சயமாக நீங்கள் பகிர்ந்து கொள்ளலாம். ஸோ இது பற்றிய இதை நீங்கள் நிச்சயமாக தமிழில் நீங்கள் கதைச்சு கொள்ளலாம். உங்களுக்கு இது பற்றிய ஒர்க் நீங்கள் ஈவன் செய்திருத்த சும்மா ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிளுக்கு நாங்கள் சொல்ல போனால் ஈவன் நீங்கள் இந்த பீச் கிளீன் அப் அப்படியான செயற்பாடுகள் அத்தகைய விடயங்களை நீங்கள் ஏதாவது செய்திருந்தால் நிச்சயமாக தயக்கமின்றி எங்களோட கதைச்சு கொள்ளலாம் தமிழ்லையும். நன்றி.
Thank you, Tatsha. And also please know that our chat is open as well. So you could type in English, Sinhala, Tamil, additional languages would be French and German as well. So any thing that you would like to contribute on any work that you have done. So, okay, maybe just quickly moving on. I'm going to start off with the last question that we have here on how, sorry.
Can I add into some of the
Yes, please, Ashan. Yes.
So the first question which I want to focus on, how has the pandemic changed the work? So regarding since I'm conducting my MSc as well, the pandemic especially has affected the research work. People who conduct research in this, or especially in ground level areas, especially in oceans and coastal ecosystems, where they conduct questionnaires and things like that. With this pandemic, there are lack of due to the restrictions, they have problems in collecting the data that they require for their research work as well. And earlier, Damita also added how during this situation, how we can conduct this work. So, for example, even at Strike and Trust, we have an ongoing project where we are planting close to 6,000 mangrove individuals. So, a good answer is by combining, collaborating with the government entities, especially we closely work with the Marine Environment Protection Authority, where they share valuable information and helps us to work during such kind of pandemics as well. So my answer is collaborating during this time with other entities are also a good answer for that question as well.
Thanks very much, Ashan. So for continuing, and I would like to maybe ask Fatima, I think I still have a call. So maybe since you did, so since you did mention that you all have done past y'all have done some cleaning, and also y'all conduct regular diving activities. I'm not pretty sure what the exact word is there. Just want to see, I mean, how do you see you could encourage, or like how do you all as a Lanka encourage the youth to become more, as say, active participants in work related to oceans? Fatima, I am wondering if you could unmute yourself. Okay, or maybe until she does. Right, that's fine. Okay, so maybe until she does, perhaps we could go on to the last question that we have here, maybe work our way up. So especially in, say, times of crisis like we are in now, right? How do you think, especially and in relation to ocean cleanups and conservation efforts related to ocean and coastal ecosystems, how do you all think that you could contribute towards this cause? I mean, we did have a few of you all share examples of the work that you have been doing, but any suggestions or anything that anyone would like to add? Sorry, I think someone. Hi, Fatima.
Hi.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just there was a small issue with the net connection over here. I'm sorry about it. What was the question for me? Please?
Right. Yeah. So my question was actually on. So you did mention that you all have conducted a few activities on diving, or you all have these diving programs or sessions. So just want to know, how do you think that how you all as Earth Lanka encourage more youth to be a part of this, or like how do you all see bringing on board more youth to become a part of this, more active participants in this work that you do?
It was quite actually it's really quite very challenging to get more youth involved. Diving. So with more interested, we get trainings done for them, diving trainings are done for them, and with those volunteers, like we contribute towards cleaning the snorkeling, towards like getting these debris under the sea cleaned up. So it's like it's quite challenging task. Meanwhile, like things are like a bit moving on. You can see like many youth are now interested towards the, creating change and saving oceans, and like addressing their voice towards the pollution.
Great. Thanks so much, Fatima. Sorry, I think there was a small break in your connection. So I'm just going to maybe quickly say what you said very briefly. So in case it was a little shaky for you all also, and thanks, Alia, I'll come to you in just a second. So she did mention that it has been challenging for them to get youth on board because the task itself is also difficult. But they have been seeing a shift in the work that they do, which is great, and there are more people who are interested in taking part as well. Ahalia, you could go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
So, hi, I'm Ahalya. I'm also a part of Slike and Trust. I'm working on coastal ecosystems. To add what Ashan said, that we are having a pandemic crisis, and how this is affecting like youth contribution to its ocean conservation is that one thing is he mentioned about the ground research data. So a lot of researchers who were like engaged on ocean conservation and monitoring for years, like 5-10 years, they couldn't collect data during this pandemic because of they couldn't go out for a long time. We were like out in lockdowns for a pretty much long time. So we like working from home for researchers is like a nightmare actually. Like we can't like set up all the softwares and in those dodgy what do you call these laptops. So it's really becomes a drawback for research. So research that promotes the data to policy. So if the research data gets disrupted, so then to bring up proper data or accuracy in data that could work towards the national plans, especially the climate action plans, NDCs, NAPs, and also whatever the climate action plan that is the country working on will be basically based on the research outputs. So if with the disruptions in data monitoring and like presentations and stuff, so mostly that will be a very much of a drawback for climate action plan and conservation activities towards the ocean actions for youth. Not only youth, but a lot of people are working on ocean monitoring and conservation, and also to add up with Priyan just said, and we not only youth can be a part of these beach cleanups, at least you could just talk to people and get them aware about what you call the ocean conservation, the fisheries management. Even you could write blogs, articles, or make memes and like small share posters, everything that counts as youth contributions towards conservation. It's not about like groundwork like ocean cleanups. At least if you could make a person to give up plastics, that is actually like you are aware about the plastic like effects towards the ocean. And we know everyone was watching the YouTube video about the turtle stuck with straws. So like we know that things are happening around, but if you could like make someone to give up on plastics, then yeah, you are contributing towards ocean conservation. So it's not that big, like we start small and go towards big. That's that I think basically youth should follow, because we are not financially independent. Like youth, most of the youth, we are not financially independent, so we can't just organize beach cleanups and stuff and like that. It's a pretty big protocol, but like start small and just funnel out your activities, then you can see a pretty good progress in your like conservatory actions that could contribute towards your organization as well as your country. That's all.
Thanks so much, Ahalya. Thanks so much, Ahalya. And just to let everyone know, Ahalya is joining us from South Korea. So thank you for your contribution. And also, yes, social media has been a very powerful tool, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But yes, that is one great way to raise awareness on this as well. I would like to maybe ask Abhishek Verman. He had messaged with saying that he would like to share some insight on this as well. If you are able to, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, when there is a question rise related to sustainability of ocean or marine life, answer is focusing on the beach cleanup and other stuffs, right? So we have to we don't want to focus on the beach cleanup. We have to focus on the awareness. That's the thing that I have to add in the answer. So actually cleaning beach and collect plastics doesn't matter that. Even we are cleaning today and tomorrow and continuously we have to continue the coming next years. Then only we can clear all those things and make it clear. But fortunately, beach cleaning, it doesn't matter that clean the beach. Beach cleaning is something about creating an awareness. So it is an awareness on plastic and the awareness on plastic, awareness on marine conservation and everything. So as youth to contribute in the sustainability of an ocean, we have to aware other people, and we have to aware ourselves first, then aware the other people and make it better ocean environment. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. And yes, I think that's a very valid point on just actually conducting an activity in order to raise awareness and create some noise to show that people are thinking about this. And we do have some a comment on the chat as well from Atika Patel. I believe once we start implementing that, we all should start living sustainably, especially at homes and officers, the rest starts to fall into place. But at the same time, we need to ensure that law enforcers don't keep rising the prices to live sustainably. Even at this point, plastic is cheaper than any other material, hence the wide use. The awareness needs to continue, but also holding relevant authorities responsible. That is a very valid point, and this is a separate conversation that we have ongoing here at Let's Psych and Trust on just transition. We have another event on that coming up later this week, which we will get into a bit later. So just very quickly, I'm wondering if anyone else in the chat who have joined us today would like to comment on either any oceans related livelihood opportunities that you think will be available for youth in the future, or any or how you contribute towards ocean cleanup and conservation efforts, especially in times of crisis. You could unmute yourselves and go ahead. Timali,
Hi, Sunny. Yes.
Yes.
So actually, this is an answer for the fourth question, which is how can youth become more active participants in work related to oceans? So I think as youth, we have the ability to conduct awareness programs, especially to these livelihood people who are living in these coastal areas. So actually there are some actions done by them unknowingly, which could harm these ecosystems, especially mangroves and etc. So as youth, if we can make them aware regarding the importance and the value of them, and if it would be really helpful. And in addition to that, if we can coordinate with other responsible organizations which can help us, then I think we can do this more efficiently.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Dimali. And Artika has also said that I believe she's joining us from Fiji, and said that most NGOs and youth organizations in Fiji were doing mangrove planting every few weeks when it was COVID free. That sounds fantastic. So with that, and I'm not sure if anyone else has any comments or any last minute things that they want to add, but if not, we will be moving on to our group work. We have two groups. So sharing my screen, and I do believe we have a screen that needs to be shared now on the questions that we will be focusing on during the group work as well. I'm not sure which of my colleagues would be sharing the screen, but sure. Thanks, Ashan. So we will be going into two groups, and just to maybe keep in mind that we are multilingual to a great extent. So we do have team members who speak Sinhala and Tamil as well, some who speak all three. So please do, you could speak in any language that is easier for you, or you could also type it in the chat. We also have those who speak French and German. That's about it in terms of our language capacities, but we would be very happy to engage with you all in any language that's comfortable to you. So during our group discussions, we will be trying to address these 4 questions that you see on the screen. Your input will be taken through what is known as a Miro board. If you joined us for our previous workshops, you've seen them. It's like a virtual whiteboard where you could put a sticky note and submit anything that you want to say. So I would encourage you all to try and keep this discussion as engaging and as lively as possible, because the strategy is being developed for youth, and it would be very nice if it can happen by youth as well. So with that, we will be moving on to the group work. We have about half an hour for group work, and after that we'll have a quick report back session as well, and maybe discuss the next steps on how we move forward. So each of the groups, our team members will be there to help with the group work. However, I would encourage you all, if you all could maybe volunteer to be moderators in the group, so we could also broaden this conversation. So with that, thank you very much to all those who engaged with us speaking or the chat, and we'll see you back here in half an hour. Thank you. Give it about 15 seconds more to see if the rooms have fully closed. Right. I am hoping that everyone is back here with us, and I hope your breakout rooms were successful and had good, productive discussion. This was very lively when I did pop in for a few minutes. So before we get started, just need to pause you all once again to let you know to kindly fill out the registration form if you haven't already. I've dropped the link on the chat. And with that, we'll move on to group 1, where I believe Ruani was facilitating. Ruani, will you be presenting?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I think Manager from my team will be sharing the screen. If not, I do. Okay. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, looks good.
It's visible, right? Yeah. Okay. And just to okay, just to start off with, we had a very lively discussion amongst our group members to go on to the first question on how can youth engage effectively in ocean and climate action. One of the first points and one of the main important points that was driven was knowledge sharing. Even in times like this, knowledge sharing could happen in forms of social media, and it was highlighted that the power of, like, the social media in this day and age could be used for this purpose of knowledge sharing. And youth group initiations was highlighted in the form that let's say if it was the communities, the coastal communities, or the communities living in the coastal areas may not know certain knowledge, or may not have certain knowledge on certain aspects. So the youth groups could initiate and give knowledge to these people on certain things that they may not know. And creating awareness and using technology to create this awareness was one of the key points that was discussed. Beach cleanups and eco initiatives, as always, was brought up, but then again, it was discussed that maybe it's yes, beach cleanups happen. Yes, beach cleanups are great, but it would also be very beneficial if we do programs and if we do awareness programs or campaigns to make sure that we don't have to do beach cleanups, to make sure that we nip it at the bud and we address the problem itself, and not have to go into the solution. Just make sure that the problem itself is addressed. And those are a few of the very important points discussed for the first question. And to move on to the second one, what challenges do you face when engaging in oceans and climate actions? One of the main ones that almost everyone in the group agreed upon was that youth do not have the financial capability or the financial independency to carry out this project at large or even small scales, because they are usually dependent on their parents. And another point that was discussed was limitation in access to data and government support when youth are to take action or take initiative in doing things. Language barriers that youth have in terms of communicating was highlighted, and we then went on to the lack of guidance and lack of basically the lack of guidance or guiding programs that youth have access to in terms of maybe planning these things out, or in terms of being aware how to get things done. So the lack of that was highlighted. And one of the main things that we discussed on this question and even the next one was the education system and how parents, students, teachers need to be made aware of the benefits and the processes involved in maybe doing these community service activities or doing these awareness programs, because it was highlighted that let's say professions like becoming a doctor or lawyer or any of that is accepted, whereas in this current education system, when you go to say that we're going to go clean a beach or things like that, education in terms of tangible education is put on a hierarchy, and that awareness in the education system was highlighted as a challenge. Then to move on to the next question, what steps could be taken to address these challenges? One of the main things that we discussed throughout was awareness at every level, as mentioned before, from the parents, the teachers, to the local communities, to the governmental entities, in terms of what is needed, what is necessary, and what could be done in making sure that these solutions are achieved. And conducting more training programs at every level was discussed, and research and proper use of social media. And one of the important points Sinisha brought into the conversation was that use of proper social media social media itself or digital media itself only might address a very limited number of people. That might be the urban population. So the discussion on maybe we should go back to maybe the the traditional forms of media came about, and how we could maybe use it better in terms to access more people. Finally, the last question, please, in sharing best practice experiences, the global youth participation in conservation was discussed at large, and then we went on to speak on youth motivation and how that plays a very important role, and including youth in climate action decision making at all levels of processes was also discussed. So that is a basic overview of everything that was discussed within the last half an hour. Sinasha, over to you.
Thank you very much, Roni, for that detailed explanation. We will now quickly move on to Ashan. Ashan, will you be presenting?
Yes, Sunny, there was a volunteer. Fatima will be presenting, and I think Nipun would be sharing the screen.
Okay, that's fantastic. Fatima, will you be able to unmute yourself? Yes.
Yeah, I actually overall what we will have to discuss is also about what Ruani has already mentioned and elaborated very in a very detailed manner. So things that what we discussed in the very first question was also regarding the creating awareness and capacity building programs from the lower level. From the lower level group of people, so that that's actually where the real awareness is required. So meanwhile, moving to the next, what challenges do you face in engaging climate? That's also same thing what she discussed, like the financial capacity to implement the projects, and also like the inadequate knowledge among the youth, and also having the challenge of getting the youths involved, the young people involved into this particular course, were also among our discussion. And also moving to the next question, it's all about collaborating with the organizations for funding was one of the thing that we all discussed and agreed upon, and also on the capacity building programs, and also creating more youth opportunities for their contribution and also their participation, and also making it like making this particular sector or knowledge included in all the educational sector levels from lower to higher, so that everybody's engagement as everybody's engagement is required, the knowledge will be spreaded to all the sectors and all the groups of people, was also among our discussion. And also like what we came up with, overcoming challenges, the best practices would be like to approach various parties to bring their capacities, and also the targeting discussions offline and beyond social media, that is like getting into the community, and also talking to them and acknowledging them about this, and public private sector getting involved with the public private sector partnership, so that we can do more programs and think of a new solution for this, and also making public prioritize in giving and involving giving their opinions and involving in these actions were some of those that we discussed. Maybe like Mr. Ashan also can add the thoughts of like what we discussed.
I think you have covered most of the things we have discussed. So overall, what I see is like what was highlighted is in both speeches was that the lack of awareness is a major concern, and also the lack of financial capacity of the youth when conducting these programs. And also one point that we missed was that the youth can actively like involve in research work, like now with the technology, with mobile phones and things like that, you can take photographs and share it with entities which conduct research. So like for example, we can get into the how number of roadkills of a particular species by taking a photograph and putting it in a GPS location. So these also add into the data which could be collected. So with that, I think like actually Fatima summarized most of what we discussed. So over to you, Sanashia.
Thanks very much, Asham, Fatima, Ronnie, and also shared the screen and joined us. And I know we are like 2 minutes over time, but I'm wondering if there's anyone else who would like to share any insight or any quick points that was either discussed during this session or anything outside of it. If so, you could do so now. Right, looks like everything has been covered. But so with that, and I know that we are slightly over time, but I would like to thank all those who joined and engaged with us today, and those who stayed on till the end. This, as Dennis mentioned, will be the first session of a series of dialogues that we hope to have in future. So if you have given us your registration form and you have indicated saying that you want to be informed about future events, we will definitely reach out to you. Furthermore, I would like to, let me just quickly share my screen. I would like to also let you all know of another event that we're having, which I spoke very briefly a little while ago. It's an independent dialogue we are hosting as part of the UN Food Systems Summit that will take place later this year. This dialogue will take place on Thursday, June 17th. And the information is right here. So it will be held from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And if you have already marked and yes on your form, we will drop your email with more details of this as well. So with that said, I would like to now close this session, and I would like to thank all of you for spending time with us this evening here in Colombo or from wherever else you're joining. And thank you once again for joining, and we will hopefully see you all very soon. Thank you and goodbye.